On this beautiful Thursday morning, karibuni sana. Every Thursday we have a relationship clinic. Bench tuna sanitize. Ngoje kidogo. But even as we prepare for that, I want to ask you a question. Today we'll be looking, this whole month we're looking at the seasons of marriage. Today we are focusing on the summer season of marriage. What is that? We'll get to find out shortly. But I have a question for you, and the question is, how long do you think a honeymoon stage in marriage should last? Kuna kuwaga na ako ka stage ka honeymoon. You know, you've just gotten married, you're on top of the world. How long does that stage last? Tell me your thoughts on 20316. WhatsApp 0786316316. As you do that, we'll take a look at the local dailies today. What is making headlines? Standard newspaper, big story. Maraga, we are on road to anarchy. That is what Maraga is saying. It is the role of the parliament to take steps and remove him, Uhuru, if he violates the constitution. If these acts are allowed to continue, we are descending into a banana republic. That's the big story on the front page of the Standard newspaper this morning. Kingi Andani on page 3, Macron's slap rekindles memories of past attacks on high-profile politicians. It says in the past 2 days, a video on French president being slapped by a civilian has been generously shared in the social media space across the world. I don't know if you've seen that video. I think I saw it yesterday and I thought, wow, okay, what is going on here? So you can read that story. The whole issue of the big story on the front page is on page 4 and page 5. Get to read about what former Chief Justice David Maraga is saying about this whole scenario. 2021-2022 budget, MPs go after Uhuru's flagship projects in changes. Also, SGR gets lion's share of budget allocation. There's a breakdown here where the money will go and where the money will come from. Very, very interesting. Total budget is 3.63 trillion bob, up from 2.84 trillion in the 2020-2021 budget. So, my friend, we have grown by almost a trillion. You need to take a look at that, and also it's good to know where money will come from. Yeah, KRA is supposed to raise 1.77 trillion in the 12 months to July 2022. Income tax from employers and businesses is about 834 billion bob. VAT is about 472 billion. Excise duty is about 241 billion, and on it goes. So take a look at that. It's a very interesting and very informative infographic right there. On page 9, there's a story on the President Uhuru Kenyatta setting 5,000 illegal firearms ablaze. It says the government will not tolerate leaders who fuel inter-clan conflicts and blame it on terrorism. That's what the president said. There's a picture to go with that. You can take a look at that as well. And then you have quite a bit from the opinions and editorials. The curse of leadership in the land of Mulembe. You can take a look at that. Different people saying different things about different situations that we are facing as a nation. From the counties on page 21, judges yet to occupy 347 million shillings Nakuru Court 6 months later. The building, built as a secure and user-friendly establishment, was to be installed with modern communication gadgets for virtual court sessions. Lakini bado haijafanyika. Find out why, and you can do that in that story. Standard Business, what is happening here? Something on insurance, and also MPs moot bond plan to settle piling pending bills. You can check out that as well. From across the globe, big day for patients as America approves Alzheimer drug. You can take a look at that, page 27. And then looking at the back pages of the Standard newspaper today in sports, Spain again has to weather a storm before major tournament. You can read that. And there's something also on athletics and a bit on, this should be volleyball, I believe, yes. Athletics and volleyball, and highlighting Euro 2020 you can take a look at that as well. Those are some of the key stories you will find in local dailies today. Grab yourself a copy, keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and also internationally. Relationship Clinic coming up shortly. Question I'm asking you is, how long do you think the honeymoon stage in a marriage lasts? Tell me on 20316 SMS, WhatsApp 0786 316. Relationship Clinic is on. Madaktari wameingia leo kwa wawili. Bench nimeweka nje, nimeisanitize, nimeisafisha vizuri. Msisukumane kama last week. Kila mtu na maswali yake. Tutawahudumia as we get into the clinic for today. Interesting thoughts. I was asking you, honeymoon stage inafaa ku last how long? Mama Mbula is telling me honeymoon stage is not really a stage. It's actually a season that comes and goes depending on what is going on in the marriage. That is what I believe. But then this one got me laughing. This is Vincent. Vincent anasema, wiki moja mkubwa, we need to work and keep off moving now that we are together. 1 week and you keep moving on. Okay, this morning we are blessed to hang out with Victor Salamba. Victor Salamba is Executive Director at Awakening Minds. Victor, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm very fine. Karibu sana, it's good to have you on the clinic today.
Thank you.
We also have Rahab Njoroge. Rahab is a life and leadership coach. Rahab, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. You're the doctor on call today.
I'm ready.
Great. So we are talking about seasons of marriage this whole month, and today we want to focus on what people call the summer season in marriage. When I think of summer, I'm thinking of warmth, I'm thinking of flowers, I'm thinking of some sunshine. So Victor, tell me, when we relate to this to marriage, what is that season in marriage that we call the summer season?
Actually, funny enough, in marriage, the summer season doesn't really come in. It comes when you're dating.
It comes when you're dating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you are married, summer love is normally very short-lived. It's normally a small window, and it's normally the absence of that much commitment in it. So many a time it normally catches us actually before we get married. But when we are married and summer love catches us up, then there's a hangover of some kind.
What do you mean by hangover of some kind?
It means that the marriage has officially begun. It means that the couple is still in a zone where they are not really sure that they've gotten into the real deal yet. They're still working as though it's not that real yet they're actually together. It's when people realize after 5 years and 3 kids that they were married.
Rahab, what do you think?
Oh my gosh. All right. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I think the summertime can come when you're married, even way deep inside marriage. You've been married for 10 years and you make it a choice that we are to smell the flowers, and there are flowers in our relationship. And we are here to enjoy each other. And I think it can come in when you're married as well.
Okay.
But I understand what Victor is saying as well, Yeah,
because for looking at what several people are saying and what most people refer to, that season after you've just gotten married. It began as you were dating and you thought, let's take it to the next level. Love is in the air, my friend. Oh my goodness. We are having coffee and rowing boats at Uhuru Park and life is good. No one can tell us anything, and then you get married. And that season of marriage, maybe the first couple of months or the first year, it's a very interesting season. And what are some of the main, let's talk about emotions. What are some of the main emotions that play out, Victor, in this season? You're just married, you've said I do. You wake up in the morning and you look and you can't believe, yani she's here. Yani leo hakuna kusindikizana.
One of the funniest things is that when you're fresh, there's expectation.
Yes.
Yeah, there are questions that haven't been answered. And the questions that have been answered are actually lying in hope, and the dream that you had.
Yes.
The danger of, because our marriage is as strong as its immediate memories. And many a times we look at our immediate memory, whenever we're looking back, is we look at how much hope do I have, then how many questions has time answered. Now, the questions that time answers is what actually fights this small season where we want to smell the flowers and smell what the questions that time answers. Because time answers questions when you're, so today we are together, I have high expectations.
Yeah.
We are believing, we both get good jobs. We are believing, we both talk about money, we'll talk about resources, we'll invest, we'll have date night every day. There are many things that are there. Then there are questions that time begins to answer. For example, jobs you wanted on time, there are questions that time begin to answer, that we won't be able to, you're bad with money, or, you forget things. So those things that time begins to answer are the direct threat now that season. And that's why I said that it becomes to a place whereby now the realness of it is a different ball game. Yes.
I usually say, I usually say, Victor, that love is blind, but marriage gets you healed.
Yes. Yes.
So you start seeing some of these things you're talking about.
Yeah. And when time answers those questions, now you realize that the decision to keep that fire burning is a bigger decision. Yeah. Because now you realize that it's no longer that automatic. Now it has to be very, very deliberate to choose to go on a date night with someone who is bad at saving. And you're mad at them for saving, but you have to consistently go for that date. So it's that time now when the questions are being answered. And that is the real element.
Wow, I like that. You mentioned something, maybe Rahab, you can talk a bit about this. Victor talked about expectations, and I think sometimes we have expectations that we never communicated, we never talked about, and so they're not being met. I've seen people who get married and within 6 months they're so frustrated they want out. So talk to us a bit about unmet expectations in this season of marriage.
Yes, I remember when I'm married, so I remember when I was doing my premarital counseling, and I was asked, what are your expectations? And I was so blank. And I said, I just expect him to treat me the way I treat him. And later in marriage is when I realized, oh my goodness, what was my expectation? Really? It is very important to express our expectations of each other. I always tell people, say what your expectations are, then you need to manage them as well. So you can't say, I'm managing my expectations when you have not communicated your expectations. I always tell women, tell him, we say we want companionship, but how does that look like? Do you want him to come and sit with you on the sofa and watch La Mujer? Do you expect that every morning he'll also check your car? The man, do you expect a warm plate of food express those expectations, because as Victor said, they're the ones that bring the frustration. You didn't express what you want, how does it look like? And you have to be very detailed and say, this is what it means to me. The companionship, this is what it means. The friendship, this is what it means. And then when you express it now, you manage it, because sometimes you will express it and the person won't meet up to those expectations. But the beauty will be you have expressed. Speak it out. Say what you want, the man as well, vice versa. Because that is where the fights come from. You didn't come early. Where were you? Why didn't you cook? All those little squabbles that we start having.
I like that. I'm just wondering, when we talk about expectations, at what point should these discussions begin? Is it before you get married or after you get married? I think it was just yesterday I was having a conversation. We're going home, and I was having a conversation with my wife, and he was sharing about, this gentleman who's so frustrated, because his wife doesn't cook. And I asked my wife, when did he discover the wife doesn't cook? After they got married. When they were dating, what did they talk about? Because I told my wife, if I remember well, when we were dating, I actually came to your house several times. The times I used to leave by the front door because your dad is coming in through the back door. That's a story for another day. I also did those things. My mom is watching and she's thinking, what? Even the pastor did those ones. Mother, I am a man just like any other. Anyway, I digress. But she cooked for me. I knew she could cook. I knew she loved cooking. And so when it comes to expectations, I'm coming from a particular way that I've lived life and seen life and seen marriage by my father and my mother. The lady is also coming from another perspective. Victor, at what point should we begin having these discussions about expectations when we come together?
From the moment that you're sure that you're going to spend time with this person. From that time when you're sure. As a relationship coach, there are things I see. And one thing you always see is people always tend to bypass that expectation part.
Yeah.
What Rahab said, you assume that this person will figure out what they'll be able to do with me, and we assume that love will be able to do all things, and we forget something. For example, I love Formula One cars. If you give me one today, I'll not know anything to do with it, and so one of the things that expectations help us to do is to make us understand that, yes, you love me, but what will you do with me when you are with me? And can I survive with what you cannot do with me? For example, can I survive with the fact that you can't cook?
Yes.
Is that such a deal breaker for me? Because in every relationship they what you call home keys, and home keys are your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And if you can't bring your home keys down and say, these are my non-negotiables, I need you to cook, I married you to cook, I didn't marry you to do anything else. I just want food, But to look at it, it's really cooking. Is cooking really part of my home keys? Can I survive with a wife who can't cook? And to this woman, can she think as though, can I meet this expectation? If I was really to bend backwards, is it something I can learn along the way? Because there's those who get married. I'll say my own story, and my wife is watching, and I have to go home in the evening. We always laugh about it. My wife, she can't iron my clothes. That she can't do. If she irons my clothes, I will look like a clown. And I tell her, keep away from my clothes, please. Don't even touch them.
Yes.
And the reality is that, did I marry someone to iron my clothes? You see, there's more to marriage than those small things. And so it's important to understand, are they the home keys? Are they critical home keys? Can I survive without them? Because we've got great issues about someone not cooking, yet they do so much more.
Yeah. I like what you're saying, because I can identify with the ironing thing. Even me, I have to go back home in the evening, so let me be very careful what I say. Sometimes my wife doesn't like me sharing this, but I usually tell her it's not a big deal. Because me, I iron my own clothes, and sometimes she keeps saying, "Wewe unapendaga kuambia watu sipigage nguo zako pasi." They think I don't take care of you. No. It's got nothing to do with that. I hear people complaining ati hujanipelekea maji ya kuoga kwa bafu. What do you mean? Before you met this woman, kwani huko unaoga? Nani alikuwa anakupelekea maji kwa bafu? So for me, some of those things I can identify with, because it's just not a big deal for me. But for some other people, it's a big deal. And I'm just thinking this season of marriage, Rahab, is really a season of discovery. Because, we've been meeting at Uhuru Park to row the boat, and in restaurant A and B, when I have my clothes ironed well and I'm looking my best, you don't know how I smell like when I wake up in the morning. You don't know that, I squeeze my toothpaste from the middle, and you want it squeezed from whatever. So what are some key things that people need to be aware of in this season of marriage as they actually discover one another? Because now you're actually living together in the same house, assuming that you are not doing that before you got married.
Yeah, so you're right. This is the time you start discovering the guy's nose, and you can't and you can't sleep, or he squeezes the toothpaste in the middle. And in the past, let me just say this, in the past you saw some of these things, but we don't pay attention to them.
Yeah.
And so now in this time they become, it's like now you can actually see them, but because we're in this stage, we still want to enjoy the sunshine, we put them under the carpet. Pengine leo alifinya katikati kwa sababu he had overslept, or you notice how he drives, and you throw it away, like no, he was in a hurry. So one of the things I always say, it is important to talk about these things.
Okay.
As the toothpaste thing, I've never really understood why it's a big thing. But let's talk about let's talk about people who come into the house, munatoa, or they remove their shoes, and you can see the socks on you can follow the trail to where they are.
Those people are called men.
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to mention. So talk about them. There's a danger when we push to you sweep them under the carpet because you still want to enjoy the summer stage, you want to enjoy the sunshine. Talk about them and say, why don't you come in instead of removing the socks at the door? I have allowed you to go to the room, remove your shoes and socks there. The little things that would now get very deep and agitators and make us fight. Talk about them because we don't talk about them earlier. Talk about them.
Okay, we'll get deeper into that because the feelings are still high. The emotions are still on the high. You are together. Now you can do what you want to do, Bonas, for your son. And you are seeing all these things, and sometimes balancing the two, it can be a bit tricky because you're thinking, if I confront kikasirika, So we'll talk about how do you balance and how do you handle that situation. Now, we are talking about that season of marriage where many people call it the summer season of marriage. Begins right before you get married, into marriage, that stage where you're still discovering one another. If you have any questions for us, or maybe you have an experience you want to share, 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. The clinic is on, Relationship Clinic, Seasons of Marriage. We are looking at summertime, my friend, and inviting your questions. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Getting to hang out with relationship coach and executive director at Awakening Minds, Victor Salamba, and also leadership and life coach Rahab Njoroge with us in studio. So back to you. We were talking about that season you're discovering, but sometimes there's a conflict, Victor, where you're discovering some things you don't like, but the emotions are still up there, man. The emotions are still up there. Sometimes you don't want to confront because you're thinking, hey, my friend, Staki kuchafua maji, things are so good, man. I can ignore it. But for how long do you ignore it? So how do you balance and how do you handle that scenario?
Well, one of the things that I've learned how to do well and teach many couples to do is how to fight.
Oh.
It's one skill that many couples go through marriage without ever learning how to. Because you have to learn how to fight, because fighting is part of marriage. You will fight.
Yeah.
How you fight is a problem. So it's important because when these things are not working well, how we are able to quickly and swiftly deal with them on a daily basis is what determines the strength of our core. So the mistake we normally make is that you say you don't want to rattle this nest, but forget that over time is not a healer. Time is a punk.
Yeah.
And with time gives you interest. So as I'm choosing to ignore, as I'm choosing not to say that you've made this mistake or you've done this thing wrong or you did this and this and I didn't like this. As we are postponing these issues, we are creating a big fight that is coming soon.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's important that couples understand that it's important we fight, but of course keep it about the issue. Because most couples don't know how to keep it about the issue. When we start talking about a cup, we end up talking about my grandmother and how people from our place normally overeat. And it's about a plate. How did you get to my grandmother?
Yes.
So yeah, it's critical to understand that in marriage, confronting is not bad. It's how you confront that determines your level of emotional maturity. And that's important.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is said that this stage in marriage, the earlier stages in marriage, maybe the first, I don't know how many years, 3, 4, 5 years, are usually some of the hardest. And sometimes people say that, once you cross the 5-year line, the sailing becomes a bit smoother. And so I'm just wondering, Rahab, these first years, why do they go through so much turmoil, and why is it that a good number of marriages never make it through this first about 5 years of marriage, especially in this generation?
Yep. First of all, yeah, it's true what Victor said, and it's true. Although me, I was told by my mother, when you reach 10 years, you've made it. I was not told the 5 years, so I waited for the 10.
Yeah.
The first 5 years, number one, we talked about expectations. We never communicate our expectations. So you come into the house and you realize, as you said earlier, this guy was brought up a certain way. You were brought up a certain way, and immediately you just start. First of all, we see those things, then we shy from them. As you said, there's conflict, but we don't want to address them. And we never really go to the cause, the root cause. Insurance, people say proximate. What was the real cause? I remember when I was married, and I realized that every time when we started getting babies and they went to school, every time we would go to shop for shoes. Shoes, unajua.
Yeah.
We would always fight, and I used to wonder, is it me, is it him? And it happened year after year after year, until one day I was like, wait, this is enough. Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Then I learned that when he was growing up, I hope you won't crucify me for this. When he was growing up, the father would buy them bigger shoes.
So they last longer.
They last longer. So they were boys. They only had one sister, so they were boys, so they would last longer. And then we have boys. So he was doing what he saw the father doing. So like a trouser, he would buy bigger. And I was brought up, wear shoes that are fitting.
Yes.
Because if you buy shoes that are not fitting, then you walk funny and all. So we had to come to that place of, okay, let's sit down. Okay, where is this coming from? So one of the things is we don't sit down to talk. We are fighting. I don't explain why I want to eat ugali every day. I'm like, first of all, I don't know how to cook ugali. So we really fight the first 5 years, maybe because we are also trying to learn each other, and we had never taken time to have very deep discussions. This is how I was brought up. One of the other things people fight about, especially in the first year, is you mentioned it, James, hujaniwekea maji ya kuoga. Because the ladies are brought up knowing when a man comes at home, receive him. How was your day? Put for him hot water. And you have never grown up. I never saw that. So if he had expected that, you see, immediately there's a conflict. He will try and snob it, but it will still come up. So the first 5 years are crucial and critical to find out, how did you grow up? Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
By the way, let me ask you, why do you press the toothpaste in the middle? By the way, let me ask you, why do you do ABCD? So that now you understand why he does what he does, or why she does what she does. Then you're like, okay, for us, then this will work. So those 5 years, you discover so much.
Very true.
And you have to be focused. Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes when you're discovering all these things, sometimes you begin to ask yourself the question, Victor, did I really marry the right person? Some people don't wait to go through the whole discovery process. A couple of months into it, and you're thinking, apana, I have to bail out. I get surprised today at the kind of things couples fight about. I really do. Sometimes being a pastor, a man would come and he's saying, hey, my kumeharibika, this is happening. And the wife comes and they have a conversation, and I'm thinking, are you guys serious? As in, that's the issue. Ama kuna kitu ingine, ni hiyo tu. Sometimes you even laugh and you tell them, my friend, you guys don't have a problem. This is not a problem. This is something very small. And I'm just wondering, Victor, what changed? What changed? Because we have a generation today that is quick to bail out, especially during this season when you begin to discover everything does not work the way you wanted it to work and you want to bail out. What changed?
One, it's the exposure we had. We have to go back a generation behind, generations backwards, to understand where the problem begins. Because remember that, as you said, there's a time when we used to say marriages after 5 years, marriages after 10 years.
Yeah.
Now we're saying marriages after 6 months.
6 months.
Just like after 1 year, you've actually done something.
What?
It's because the way that the marriages that our parents had is the biggest problem we are having today.
Oh.
And I'm saying this because I'm saying those who are maybe who have parents who had a bit of an imbalance. If maybe your mom was not didn't maybe work as much and your dad did, or you had a marriage where your mom felt as though she was being oppressed by your dad, some kind of thing, or your mom oppressed your dad. You know, there are those kind of marriages which came up, you know, after a while, you know, where the structure had a bit of a problem. But that structure, what it did is this. It made that when my sisters are getting married, my mom tells my sisters, when you get into marriage, don't make the mistake that I made. Don't allow him to do this. When I'm getting married, my dad is telling me, listen, you must understand that for a woman to listen to you in the house, you must do 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So you're not being told how to manage and how to understand each other. You're being equipped how not to.
Oh.
So our level of resistance became less.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because you're told how not to do it. You know, the guys didn't tell us, okay, when you get married, James, do this. Understand your wife like this. Women function like this. You are told, listen, you saw how I ran the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how you run the house. And your mom was busy equipping another daughter somewhere, telling her, listen, when you get married, don't have a marriage like mine. Me, I used to work, bring all my salary home. You keep your money to yourself. You see?
Yeah.
So what happened now, we have people who are already been prepared that marriage is war. Yeah. And they enter ready. So you get married to someone already has a mindset that hautanikalia na mwingine amesema hautanikalia. Then you have a marriage that is simply, you know, you're walking into a complete war zone. And from there now, the rest is just a slippery slope. Because remember also, we are not equipped also for when things change. We've talked about the planning and the expectations. Or there's something else I call in marriage the Kana effect.
Okay.
You know? And the Kana effect is the blind ring that most marriages never see. Because, you know, the miracle in Kana is a miracle of time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens in marriage that in the first year, something can happen in the first year that matures the marriage emotionally very quickly. There might be a miscarriage, you know, there might be a loss of a parent, there might be something huge that happens in the first year and throws the marriage into 18 years of intense emotions.
Wow.
And they were not prepared for the deep end.
Okay.
You know, or I lose my job in the first 3 months. And the marriage has matured very quickly. So that's a blind thing that many couples are never prepared for. And you always think it's going to work out 1 + 1 + 1. And at the time, life just happens.
Wow.
You know, you get married, life happens.
Okay, I'm giving you one more opportunity to ask questions. We have about 15 more minutes before we get to 8. It's 7:45. So if you have a question for us today, send it in right now. 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786316316. Relationship Clinic, we are looking at summertime, talking about seasons of marriage. I'm hanging out with relationship coach and director at Awakening Minds, Victor Salamba, and also Rehab Jiroge, who is a life and leadership coach. This one is coming in from Beatrice in Nakuru. You say, it is true, the common saying from our mothers was, these men are not our relatives. This one has imeharibu mindset ya wasichana. Thank you for sharing that. Let me see if there's another question here. Okay, guys are just saying they're tuned in and they're following the conversation. Good morning, Pasi. At the clinic, the gentleman has said it all. Actually, for parents who are not God-fearing, can greatly influence their children as they are married. Others are even after. Please tell him to explain how couples should counter the influence. So how do you counter this negative influence? You know, especially for somebody who has seen the light, you love God, you're born again, but there's that influence that came from your parents that may not have been godly. How do you counter that influence?
The first thing that each couple must discuss strongly and boldly is, are you willing to cut loose? That's the first question people should ask. The moment I say, I want to marry you, are you willing to cut loose? It's something I call failure to launch. Failure to launch is you have refused to leave the chains of your parent. I'm calling chains in love, because I've got a mother watching.
Yeah.
But But it's actually critical because many times we never examine how much influence does my partner's parent have on them.
Yeah.
We should not just look at upbringing. We must look at the voice that speaks in their life today.
Yes.
Which is the most powerful and active voice in your spouse's life today? That voice is the voice that, as a partner, you begin to think, can I survive with the influence of this voice? Can my husband survive without calling his mom to ask for advice?
Yeah.
Because if my husband can survive calling his mom, I mean my fiance, then I don't think I can work with a marriage like this. Because a marriage is where now you'll be forced to do buy one get one. No, buy one get one, whereby you now have to befriend the parents.
Yes. Yes.
Your spouse. But it's important to discuss not only how were they raised, but which voice is loudest in their life. Your partner. Yeah. That is the voice that will influence your future.
I like that. I'm just wondering, Rahab, because men and women are different. I'm just wondering, do men and women handle this season differently? You know, sometimes I hear stories of, for a man, many times men look at things as projects. And so when you are dating, you are investing in something with a goal in mind. Sasa ameingia kwa nyumba, what is the next project? I keep hearing that. So just, do we look at this season differently as men and women?
That's an interesting question. I've never really thought about it, but I have heard that men look at things in boxes or as a project, and when one is done, we are moving on to the next one. But we internalize everything, and everything comes together such that while you are removing a box, mine is a continuation. So that when Victor was saying we were talking about the plate, then it becomes the grandmother.
Yes.
It's because we link everything together. For most of us, I think we are somewhat the same, the men and the women. It's just that you guys are very focused and us guys are very, I don't like using that word emotional. I don't like it at all, but everything is tied to the other. So if you were talking about the plate yesterday, or your grandmother did something yesterday, then you refuse to take the plate today, then I'll tie the two. For most of us as women, we like the honeymoon stage, the summer stage is beautiful, and we want to be held, and we want to smell the roses, and we want to dwell there.
Yeah.
For you guys, you've moved on. So I think there's a difference, and that is why we need to communicate. While the man is like, hey, now I am married, now we have children, now I need to work and do something else. As we want you to come, we want children, at least come and help me change the diaper, while your mind is not there. So I think, yes, we handle it differently, but that is unique to people. So I wouldn't want to put all of us
in one box.
The same basket.
Very true.
Yeah, exactly.
Even as we come to the end of this discussion, maybe we can talk about how does a couple maximize this season? How do we make the most out of this season and get the most out of it, Victor?
A marriage is as strong as its memories. Yeah. And many a times that's one thing that couples tend to forget, is we have to work on to build as many memories as we possibly can by the day. Okay. Because marriage has got two sides of it. Marriage has got, of course, the whole plan where we live together until death do us part. That's a good practical theory. I like it. But the reality is this: is that the marriage I've got today. Yeah. I've got today, and I have to work with today, because if you sit down with a widow, a young widow, she will tell you that arguing about rubbish being taken outside is foolishness. She'll sacrifice that to have the husband back. You speak to a man who has got a wife. So it's important to understand that in marriage, let's celebrate today. If you are able to pay rent today, let's look about memory. Let's see how do you come of it together. At the end of the day, when you pay rent, we are hiding from the landlord together. And it's a memory. The problem we do in marriage is we always want to do things tomorrow. We want to discuss about this serious issue tomorrow. We want to have a date tomorrow. we want to do some things that are done because they're allowed in marriage tomorrow. So it's always critical for us to understand that we have today.
Yeah.
And whatever is happening in the marriage, if a child is sick, whatever it is, we have got today. And we have to finish today as one. That's the bottom line.
I love what Victor is saying. Maybe Rahab, you can add something to it, because sometimes I tell young couples, that this is the time where you can decide to eat out. This is the time where you can wake up and go for a mission trip and no one will ask you, ngoja watoto waanze kukuja. You'll be thinking, I need to go home, I need to go home, I need to go home. So I keep telling them, and I'm tying this to what Victor has said about memories. I keep telling couples, maximize on this time, make the most out of it. I don't know if there's anything you can add to that.
Yes, I agree with that. Maximize on the time. Live a day, a moment at a time, And just to add on to Victor's point, invest in that space. If you're going to eat out, when you're eating out, what are we talking about? Then I think what I would want to add, can we stop sweating the small stuff? Hizi vitu ndogo ndogo. Kama mtu alia squeeze toothpaste katikati ama nyuma, like it doesn't really matter. The toothpaste has come out. Let's stop focusing on the small things.
Yeah.
Then the other thing I want to say, when we get married and we start noticing those two things, we look at the other person, and many times we do not look inward. We don't ask, on my part, what am I doing? So I'd actually say focus on what you can give rather than what you can receive. As a wife, what are you giving?
Yes.
As a husband, what are you giving? Stop saying my wife does not, my wife. You, what are you doing? The wife, stop saying my husband didn't, my husband, what are you doing? So focus on yourself rather than the other person. And celebrate the little times, and take time to spend time together and talk. And don't talk about rent. I know maybe you have not paid rent. Can we talk about so tell me a story? A miscellaneous thing that will make you guys laugh, because at the end of the day, I think that is very, very important. That's
awesome.
What I'd like to add.
Awesome. Rose is saying exactly. Stop unnecessary quarrels with your spouse. Enjoy each other's company while you are still there. Forgive daily, reconcile. That is what Rose says. Well, Victor and Rahab, thank you so much for availing yourselves. Unfortunately, my time is up for today, but I believe that with what we have discussed this morning, somebody has been able to take a thing or two that they can implement in their relationship to make it better, because that is what we endeavor to do when we do the relationship clinic. There's so much negative talk about marriages and who left who and who cheated on who, but on this forum, we look at marriage from a biblical point of view. You look at the realities we are facing, but we also come up with solutions, because we believe marriage done God's way will be able to thrive. So thank you so much. I'm out of time for today. Thank you for being a part of the show and for your participation. God willing, we'll have another clinic next week. Have yourselves a great day.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.